Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we'll be talking about the glories of blessings and the power of prayers. Please join us for the prayers, followed by a little Hare Nam. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Hare now. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will be talking about the glories of the blessings. So the blessings we get of the Vaishnavas, of the devotees of the Lord. And today happens to be the disappearance day of Srila Narottama Das Thakur. So Srila Narottama Das Thakur, coming from Goloka, is providing us this pure, his blessings in the form of love of Godhead. and all we have to do is open our arms. And it is very interestingly said that, the devotees, they are like the rasikas, they take pleasure, they relish the sweet pastimes of the Lord. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, as we hear, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the glories are, of the devotees, not just of Lordship. The devotees have been glorified. How Parikshit Maharaj, he is hearing and absorbing the sweet pastimes, relishing the sweet pastimes, while making genuine inquiries. So when devotees are glorified, Lord Kṛṣṇa becomes happy. And when Lord Kṛṣṇa is glorified, devotees, the Vaishnavas, they become happy. And in this context, I'm reminded of this incident where Srila Prabhupada, he was, while instructing, he was reading a letter coming from his disciple. And he said, "Your devotee." So at that time, Srila Prabhupada said, "Don't write your devotee. Devotee is not a small thing, it's a great thing. It's a highly elevated platform to be at. Rather write your servant." So from that day we understood that we have to be in the mood of Das Anudas, a servant of the servant of the servant. So we are all serving our spiritual master who is serving his spiritual master. And by following the example of Srila Prabhupada, where he, every time, he was glorified by his disciples, he would, start glorifying his spiritual master by saying Jai Prabhupada. And sometimes some devotees would get confused. Is he glorifying himself? Then they would be able to realize soon after that actually he is glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada. So he is glorifying his spiritual master. And he is constantly glorifying that his spiritual master has sent all these wonderful boys and girls who have come to help him in spreading the movement of Krishna consciousness all around the globe. And so similarly, Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he is being glorified. So when Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he actually came from a very rich family, Kayastha family, right? And they were like the landlords at that time, so almost kingly. So being a son of a king in a Kayastha family, just like Nand Maharaj, he is the Vaishya king, right? So he is the king of the cowherd men and women and that village. And in today's time, even this mood to be an administrator or king has been, it has a perverted reflection from the Vedic perspective. In old times, people used to be the administrators to provide facilities to the population. And not just the human beings, they would take care of, the cows, they would take care of the pets, they would take care of all living entities, in the surrounding area. So they would very nicely provide facilities, and these facilities were not for sense enjoyment. These facilities for spiritual advancement. So our Vedic culture has been very rich from that perspective, that we are not attached to the land, rather we are attached to providing facilities for everyone around us to progress spiritually. That's why we chant the holy name just by raising our hands and calling out Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And Srila Jiva Goswami and Narottama Das Thakur, they preach that we should chant loudly. Why? Because we are making a prayer that, oh my dear Lord Kṛṣṇa, oh my dear Mother Radharani, please engage me in your service. And then whoever hears it, even unknowingly, gets purified, gets the benediction that they may have, even as a Gyat Sukriti, unknowingly, they may get engaged in Lord's devotion service. And that is where our true journey starts. By engaging, we are advancing in our spiritual journey. And we are able to understand who we are and what is our relationship with the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Krishna, who is all attractive, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he likes to be called Kṛṣṇa, like Srila Prabhupada teaches us. Again and again, he instructs us. So here, Narottama Das Thakur, his disappearance day is today, and so we are remembering him. He has written more than 50 songs, and some of the songs are very amazing songs. And in some of the songs, he has actually revealed his mood. So, one of his most famous is Je Anilo Prema Dhana Karuna Prachara. So that is like, sung among the Vaishnavas, among the devotees. And Srila Prabhupada, he sang this one. It's so sweet that you completely get immersed. This prema, right? That he is prema dhana. He is basically saying that this is the mercy, the prema dhana, the love of Godhead that we are all seeking is actually mercy, and it comes from, other Vaishnava Thakurs, in their lineage. So we are always grateful and serving our spiritual master with this way. Now, how do you serve? There are two ways we can serve. One is we can serve their physical form. That's called Vapu Seva. And then the second is we serve by following their instructions. That's called Vani Seva. Vani Seva is following the instructions of the spiritual master. When the spiritual master says, do deity worship, we do deity worship. And actually, after you get Brahman initiated, you are obliged to do deity worship. That is, when you are called for deity worship, you should always be ready to take on that particular service. And similarly, we follow various instructions like spread Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, he was, when asked, and people were shocked, like in a month, within 30 days, he had actually laid the cornerstone for Mayapur, Vrindavan, and then at Juhu temple in Mumbai now. So they were shocked. They were like, Srila Prabhupada, you can do so much. And there were more than 90s, temples all around the world. And Srila Prabhupada said, actually, you guys should be able to do twice, thrice. And then he said 10 times, or even 20 times, because you are young. So the disciples of Srila Prabhupada at that time were young, in their late 20s, early 30s. So Srila Prabhupada was encouraging. And he's telling us that at every moment, not just by the quantity, but also by the quality. The quality is essential. Because if we present something genuine, then people will accept it, right? It doesn't matter, it may have faults, but they will see that this is a genuine thing. And this is to benefit the humanity, not just humanity, but all living entities. So that used to be the thought of administrators, that used to be the vision of the acharyas, that has always been the vision of the spiritual masters in disciplic succession. And that's why, we take their shelter, because we know that following this vision, we can go back home, back to Godhead very easily. So Bhakti Yoga, devotion service, is the elevator system. Instead of walking through the steps, which is Varnashram system, we can directly take the elevator to the top floor, where Lord Kṛṣṇa is there, and we can start serving him. So there are many wonderful, wonderful songs Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he wrote. So we should serve and thank Kṛṣṇa and Acharyas, and especially Srila Prabhupada in this Kartik month, because by their mercy, such tough, scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya, they are made so easy. And when we read, we automatically get the blessings. When we are reading and glorifying the Vaishnavas, the spiritual masters, we are getting their mercies, we are getting the blessings. So if you want to be blessed, all you have to do is open Bhagavad Gita and read just one verse, and the blessings will flow, through Srila Prabhupada to you. So again, Lord Krishna's blessings always flow through his devotee. And so Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he, an amazing Acharya, as an amazing Acharya, he teaches us how to pray and how to accept the mercy of the Lord. And this song is very famous. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Tum bin ke dayalu Jagat samsare Patita pavan hetu Tav avataro Mosama patita prabhu na pai beara. So he is teaching us by his own example that, the Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya and all their associates, they appeared, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to deliver the fallen souls. When Krishna appears, he annihilates the demons. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he even blesses Jagai and Madhai, who were the most fallen in this age of Kali. They were doing all kind of abominable acts. Yet at the same time they were washed off all those anarthas and they became pure devotees by the mercy of Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And similarly, that invocation of blessing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot be complete unless we get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu. So it was Nityananda Prabhu who actually pleaded on their behalf, on behalf of Jagai and Vadhai. And at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sets the example. He's showing us that we have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So there is a process. So we have to follow the process, take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And he is Tattvadarshi. He has seen the truth. And so he can bless us. What is our ability? What power do we hold? We are minuscule. Lord Kṛṣṇa is infinite. And through his devotees, he provides these infinite blessings to just finite beings who are us. And so that's why the blessings appear like overflowing ocean of bliss, transcendental bliss. And we all want to be immersed, completely immersed in this transcendental bliss of blessings, right? When we say prasad, prasad also means mercy. So when we want to have prasad, that means we want to get mercy. We are eager to get mercy. And the only quality that we need is laulyam. We need to have this intense desire to receive this mercy. But to get this mercy, we have to be with the right attitude, with the right mood, which is Tranadabi Shunichina Taroriva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadhari. We have to become more humble than the grass on the street. We have to become more tolerant than the tree. We have to be ready to give all respects to others without expecting any respect from others. Only then ahitukiya pratihata yayatma pratisiddhati. Only then, without any motivation, we can regularly carry out the devotional service, our services, our acts to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. And Lord Kṛṣṇa says, Yat karoshi yadashinasi yad jihoshi tadasi yat tapasyasi kantiya tat karishwamadapram. Whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you give, whatever activities we engage in perpetually. We engage in different kind of activities through three ways: mind, body and words. So when we engage ourselves through these three mediums to serve, whatever activity that we do, whatever action we do, it should be to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We should be offering it in service of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Yet at the same time, we should be doing it anukulena Kṛṣṇa anushīlanam. We should be doing it as Lord Kṛṣṇa desires. Not that we do whatever nonsense and we say, okay, this has been offered. No, we should be conscious. So that is mindfulness. So today, we understand that to be able to invoke the glories, invoke the blessings of the devotees, invoke the blessings of the acharyas, invoke the blessings of the Vaishnavas, we have to be with the right mood. We have to be ready to receive it, right? If somebody gives you, something and you put it in a cup, you have to hold it this way, right? If you hold it upside down, everything will flow around it. And that is the mood of pride. While this way, when we hold it, upright and it's ready to receive, then it can be filled with the blessing that's coming our way. And that is the method, that is the process. So we have to understand the process. And Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he's teaching us this process. And there is one song where he actually reveals his mood, that how he is coming from Goloka. So that's hidden. Radha Krishna Prana More Jugal Kishore Kalindi Jamuna Jai. Actually, Radha Krishna Prana More Jugal Kishore Jivane Marane Gati Ar Nahi More. So here, prayers to the Sakhis, and it's from Prarthana that he's, this is given Sakhi Vrinde Vigyapti. So here he is saying that we have to take shelter of the seniors. Sometimes people come to the temple and they just say, okay, I just want to have a relationship with Kṛṣṇa. I don't want anyone in between. Not realizing that when you try to do that relationship, it is from a great distance. Because when you see someone from a great distance, you cannot see them properly. You cannot see what they desire, you cannot see the expression, you cannot appreciate the beauty, name, form, activities, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And every time that you come, in the disciplic succession, or you take shelter of a devotee, that's like a magnifying lens. And when you put a magnifying lens, as His Grace Prabhu, he covers, like, as you put in the binoculars more and more lenses, the object of your vision comes closer and closer. So this is how when we take shelter of the Acharyas, they provide us these blessings through their instructions, through their songs, through their writings, through their discourses, that we can see from their vision and we can get closer to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa, become very happy. Why? Because we are coming through the associations of their dear devotees, right? If you try to, approach a rich man, right, and you are saying, okay, I'm going to meet that rich man, you may be asked to stand in a line long back. You could be in a long line, just like many other people who just want to see the rich man. They don't want to deal with anyone. But if you happen to know the son of that rich man, right, then you say, hey, I want to see your father. Son will say, yeah, I always see him day and night, come with me. And he can just skip the whole line. He can actually take you directly. And he can ask his father to give you special attention. And when a son is bringing his friend, we all know that we treat that person just like our son. So imagine, without much effort, just by taking shelter, just by being in a humble mood, we can get the benediction to be able to see Lord Kṛṣṇa and get his blessings and have that loving exchange already established through the disciplic succession. And whoever doesn't use this process is such a, it's like not very intelligent. Srila Prabhupada, he used to refer to a person who's not very intelligent, it's like the person has a poor fund of knowledge. So this is parampara system, the blessings of parampara systems. We are getting these blessings automatically by following the parampara system, already established process, right? You are going through a jungle. The jungle is very dense, there are all kinds of animals. Yet at the same time, you have to cross the jungle to get to your destination. And then somebody says, don't worry, I have this perfect wagon, it's perfectly protected, and I go through this path day and night, and we know exactly the path to take. And there is a shortcut to go through this. All you have to do is get on this bandwagon, just get on with it and just go through it. We are all struggling in this Mahasagar. Bhav Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. It's a forest on fire, it's like an ocean. The forest is so huge, it's like an ocean. This fire is spreading like ocean. And so, if you want to cross, well, jnanis, they are like saying, okay, I don't want to engage in activity, I just want to sit outside the forest. So that doesn't help. Well, you have to cross the forest. Karma Yogi is thinking, or Ashtanga Yogi is thinking, I'll do it on my own power, with these senses that I have. And then they are frustrated time and again. And then comes devotee. They are like on this beautiful ship as they're crossing this, or bandwagon as in the case. So if there's this ocean that needs to be crossed, you cannot swim through it, but you can easily board a ship. And you can be just, singing Harinam on your cruise ride back to Godhead. So it's so easy. And Lord Kṛṣṇa himself says that for a devotee, he has this special mercy towards us. Teshamaham samuddhata mrityu sansara sagarad bhavamina chiratpata maya veshata chetasam. So again, from this mrityu sansara sagarad, this ocean of birth, death, old age, we can easily be delivered by Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, because he himself is the swift deliverer. So here today, let's discuss the sweet pastimes of Srila Narottama Das Thakur. So this is the month of Kartik, and there are wonderful events, festivals coming, and today this is a special event where we glorify the Disappearance Day. Just like we'll be glorifying the Disappearance Day and we'll be celebrating it, so we actually celebrate the Disappearance Day of the devotees of the Lord, because when we glorify the Lord, the devotees become happy. When we glorify the devotees, Lord becomes happy. And the blessings of Lord Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa, their lordships, it flows through the devotees to us. Srila Narottama Das Thakur. as we discussed, was from a Kayastha family, landlord, his ancestors were landlords, so like he was a king's son, and he gave it all up to engage in Lord's service, following that disciplic succession. Yet at the same time, even though he had some amazing disciples who were from, very high-class Brahman families, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and Ramchandra Kaviraj, so they were his disciples who were from great Brahman families, but at the same time, because Srila Narottama Das Thakur was from a Kayastha family, he was considered like a Shudra by the caste Brahmins. So the caste system in India is not very, glorious. It's actually the wrong way of looking things, because Lord Kṛṣṇa never says that it's based on Janma. He's basically saying Chaturvarna Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Right? Janma is not there. So we have to understand that yes, if you do take birth in a high class family, then this is because of a pious act in the previous life that you have this opportunity. But if you don't avail the opportunity, then you're actually just a Brahman Bandhu. You may be born in a Brahman family, but you are not able to follow the samskaras, you're not able to follow the characteristics, you don't have your nature, your inclination to be a Brahmana, you are more driven by the mode of passion and mode of ignorance or a mixed modes, then you're not a Brahman. So, from that perspective. And such a person is called Brahman Bandhu. So, when a person who is born in a Brahman family is not able to carry out his duties as a Brahman, that's because of his inclination in other modes, and he becomes a Brahman Bandhu. Or sometimes even same thing happens with Kshatriyas or Vaishyas, they are also twice born. Then they are called Dvij Bandhus, or Kshatriya Bandhu and Vaishya Bandhu. So again, accordingly you are considered and called out. So he was constantly being criticized by the caste Brahmanas. And when he had become very old at that time, he asked his disciples to take him to the bank of the Ganges, and he said, prepare a pyre, because this is my time to leave this body. And his disciples and the devotees, they were all crying out that how could it be, but they have to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So they just followed it as he said. And that is telling us that we shouldn't be actually trying to, we may advise if asked, but we should follow the instruction of the spiritual master as it is. Sometimes people have the tendency, I want this, so I will somehow put it in a way that my spiritual master blesses it. Yes, blessing is very important, but we should not be doing it hetuki. You should not be motivated to drive your, inspirations home. Rather, you should be ready to understand what are their inspirations. Like Srila Prabhupada, he would say to his disciples, why don't you go to India? Why don't you go to London and try to establish His Holiness Mukund Maharaj, as he was leaving the New York temple, as he was moving from New York to San Francisco. At that time, Srila Prabhupada, as he was walking out the door, he said, see if you can open a center there. And he actually wondered, how could he open a center? And he agreed to that, in his mind. And by the blessings, when you agree to what your spiritual master desires, by the blessing of your spiritual master, of our spiritual master, we are able to do amazing feats. So he was able to drive further on the west coast, and then Srila Prabhupada said, why don't you try to spread around the world? And then the four couples, they went over to London, and the whole London was immersed in Krishna consciousness. So here we see that the mercy of spiritual master, Lord Kṛṣṇa is flowing through the spiritual master and the devotees, the acharyas, and that is making our life successful. So if you want to be successful, we have to follow the instructions of one who is very close, very dear to Lord Shri Krishna, and just like Narottama Das Thakur. So he asked his disciples to prepare a pyre where his last rites would be performed. And even though they were weeping, they prepared this. And then Narottama Das Thakur, he went into the forest, into Samadhi. And for 3 days he was in Samadhi. And all his disciples, they were just waiting patiently. And then they saw there are no symptoms of life in his body. So they set up his body onto the pyre, ready to, light it up with all the regulations. And at that time, the caste Brahmanas, they came to this arena. And they started blaspheming with very strong words, Narottama Das Thakur, saying that he is a Shudra, and they were pointing to his disciples like Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, and Ramchandra Kaviraj. They were saying that you were born in a high-class Brahmin family, but you became disciple of this Shudra. So this way they were calling out, which is a very bad thing. And from Ramayana we hear this lesson that you never criticize a person, especially after they have left their body, right? And here, Srila Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, he started crying and he started praying to Narottama Das Thakur that please do something, please help them not commit offenses at your lotus feet. And at that time, immediately when this prayer was being made by the disciples to Narottama Das Thakur, he stood up on his pyre. He just sat down, and as he was his body just, he sat down and he stood up, and at that time everyone was shocked to see those beautiful effulgence coming out of his body. And everyone was so shocked. So the caste Brahmanas understood that they have made a big offense at the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava. And amazingly, a golden Janevu appeared on the very being of Srila Narottama Das Thakur. And his face was glowing like 1,000 suns. And so the caste Brahmanas, they immediately, take shelter of his lotus feet and ask for forgiveness for their offenses, for the blaspheming that they were doing. Here we hear, that the Vaishnavas are so merciful that Narottama Das Thakur, he forgave them and he embraced them. Not just forgave them, he embraced them. So that is the heart of a devotee. That's the heart of, of Vaishnava. So he's teaching by his very example. Sometimes we see that somebody passes away and people start posting all kind of, bad messages, not so glorious, but rather they are blaspheming that such and such person, it was just right. We have to understand that it is the soul that has left to the next destination. And for the devotees, they are actually going back home, back to Godhead. That is glorious. That's why we celebrate the Disappearance Day of devotees, of Vaishnavas, and of the spiritual masters. And it should never be, in no custom has it been said, even if a person was a sinful, right, in a material world and not a Vaishnava, even then people pay attention that when he dies, at that time nobody says bad thing about him, rather, or her. They say only good things. They only remember, because what happens in all the, again, let's talk about in our Vedic culture, let's talk about in, among the Portuguese, let's talk about among the Jews, let's talk about among the Christians. Everywhere, every religion follows this common aspect. Why? Because the soul is constantly around the body at times, if it has not moved on to the next destination. And if it hears people blaspheming them, then they remember for many, many births, and they are in great pain. We don't want to inflict pain on anyone, right? So we should be very careful not to, say anything offensive to anyone. Yasmano dujite loko lokano dujite chaya hasyamash bhayodage mukta yasa chame priya. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that my devotee does not get disturbed by others and does not disturb others. By mind, body and words, we should be very careful not to cause anxiety to others and not become anxious because of others' actions. We should just accept everything that's coming our way as the blessings of the Lordship. So Srila Narottama Das Thakur, after having giving the blessings and having accepted and embraced the caste Brahmanas who corrected themselves, only after they corrected themselves and they took shelter and asked for forgiveness, he blessed them. And then he moved back to the kutir. And all the devotees, they were like singing back, they were doing kirtan, chanting the holy name as they took their spiritual master back to the kutir, and they were so joyfully performing kirtan every day. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So nice time was passing, and after a few months, Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he said, I would like to come, go to the Ganges with me. I want all of you to come. So they all came with Srila Narottama Das Thakur, and he stood in the Ganges and he said, why don't you pour Ganges water on me with your hands, just like take it and make an offering. So they were really excited. Oh, this is so nice, we'll get to bathe our spiritual master. So they gathered around. But what were they saying? As they were pouring water on the very body, the very being of Srila Narottama Das Thakur, his body was shrinking, and it was melting it and converting, transforming into milk. So the milk was getting merged with the Ganges water as it was flowing. And now the devotees, they wanted to stop, they didn't want to do it, but he said, no, you have to continue. And so now they were crying, understanding that their spiritual master is getting transformed into water, into milk, when they pour the water on him. And so, his body was reducing, and finally he completely merged into Ganges. But what it did was, in a big pot, they collected that milk, and so they brought it onto the land and they established a samadhi. That samadhi is known as Dugdh Samadhi. Dugdh means milk, samadhi of milk, and this milk is nothing but the very being, the very body of Srila Narottama Das Thakur that was merging into the Ganges. So that is still celebrated today, and you can go and visit in Navadvip Mayapur, his samadhi, which is known by the name Dugdh Samadhi. So such were the glorious times, and he is teaching us that how we should be taking shelter. Amanina, right? Amanina. He had no desire to be glorified. He was always seeking to glorify others, to glorify Shri Radha Krishna, to glorify Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, so the glorification, the prayers he has left, and if you go to KK songs, you can find 68 of his songs there. And of course the songs of Vaishnava Acharyas in this book, we can see wonderful songs of Srila Narottama Das Thakur, as he has described such in wonderful ways. And he actually, in this Sakhi Vrinda Vigyapati, he is actually revealing that he is coming from Goloka, and he is one of the close associates, right? One of the Sakhis of Radharani and the Gopis. And he is showing that I would like to, Chamara Dhulaya, I would like to, give pleasure to Radha Krishna by giving them, by using chamar, by serving them with chamar, with the permission of Lalita and Vishakha Sakhi, with the permission of the great Sakhis, the exalted Sakhis of Radharani, the very close Sakhis. So the Ashta Sakhis of Radharani, the 8 Sakhis, and these two are actually the prime one, Lalita Devi and Vishakha. And continuously as we read, so amazing songs. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Amazing songs. We could just be singing all day long. So such are the wonderful, blessings that we get when we remember Vaishnava Acharyas like Srila Haridas Thakur, Srila Narottama Das Thakur. And of course, Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya, and those glories of the name have been further exemplified, further amplified by Srila Narottama Das Thakur. And as we hear, when we see a devotee, we should always, try to serve them. Well, the devotee association itself, if you get devotee association, it is called paramount in all scriptures, right? Sadhu Sangha, Sarv Siddhihaya, Love Sarva Shastra Gaya, Love Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhihaya. Just by momentary association of a devotee, our life can become perfect. So if you get an opportunity to see a Vaishnava, you should humbly serve. We should humbly, serve the Vaishnava. We should glorify the Lordship. We should glorify the Vaishnava and be ready to take their instruction to our heart and follow those instructions with our mind, body and words. And so Srila Prabhupada, just like he crossed at that, when he was in like 68, 69 years of age, he crossed the ocean. He left Radha Damodar temple where he was in the service of, Shri Radha Krishna, Shri Radha Damodar. He left Vrindavan to spread Vrindavan all around the world. He created Vrindavan all around the world. He wanted to manifest. He wanted to turn this planet Earth in Vaikuntha. And he gives a very nice example. When we were in second grade, we always heard this story that there were two men, right? One man was lame, he couldn't walk, he had no legs, and another man was blind. Both of them wanted to go to a fair, they wanted to go and see this fair. But how do they go? Because the blind man doesn't know how to, what direction it is and how to see, how to get there. And then the lame man doesn't know how to walk to that place. So they came up with a plan. So Srila Prabhupada, he very nicely, we studied in second grade, but after so many decades, we have not understood. So Srila Prabhupada explains this with a proper analogy as we can understand, apply it in our life. He says that the Western world is like the blind world. It is materially very opulent. It has all kind of facilities. You get all kind of electronic gadgets. Even in the time of pandemic, we can still be connected with our loved ones, with the devotees, with our friends and family. So we can very easily be using the blessings that we get in the Western world of technology, of being able to connect, so many other facilities. Yet it is a blind world. It doesn't know how to use these, the technology and these facilities. And then the Vedic culture, the Indian culture is like the man who's a layman. So he knows what the vision is, how to get, but the direction, but doesn't know how to get there because the legs are not there, like a layman. So Srila Prabhupada explains that all that needs to happen is that the lame man has to get onto the shoulder of the blind man. And so the lame man who can see can give the direction to the blind man. Take 2 steps forward. Okay, turn left. Takes 3 steps forward. Oh, you are about to hit a bush. So just move to the right a little, about 2 feet, and then continue to move forward. So that way the layman can give directions. So the Vedic culture, the Vedic knowledge that we have, this thoroughfare of Vedic culture, we can use this to drive the Western culture, the Western world, which is blind world, which is bewildered in the darkness of this Kali age. It's constantly lost, but this vision of the Vedic knowledge can enable both the Eastern and Western worlds all together in perfect harmony to cross over this ocean of nascence. And one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, so how could this planet Earth can become Vaikuntha? Srila Prabhupada said, only if 2% of population becomes Kṛṣṇa conscious, then this planet Earth will become Vaikuntha. 98% can continue to do whatever nonsense that they are doing, right? But if 2% can become, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu already gave his prophecy that in every street, every town, every village, there will be chanting of his holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. And starting with the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we already know that 10,000 years are going to be the golden years even in this Kali age. So we are born at the perfect time, at the perfect place, with the perfect mindset. We have the perfect facility. Now, are we intelligent to use these facilities to attain the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? The purpose of life, Srila Prabhupada says, is to enjoy. When people hear it, they get shocked, right? Well, the enjoy is with the supreme enjoyer. Lord Kṛṣṇa is the supreme enjoyer. So to enjoy with the supreme enjoyer, we need to know how to serve that supreme enjoyer, how to serve his loved ones. And then in their company, we will automatically be enjoying, because he is Rishikesha, he is the master of the senses. And all our senses will be completely satisfied. So this is the month of Kartik. Bhakti is on sale. And on top of Bhakti, we get the blessings coming from the great Vaishnava Acharyas like Srila Narottama Das Thakur, Srila Hare Das Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, and so many wonderful Vaishnavas. So we should take proper, avail this opportunity. We should take advantage. It's not a bad word, taking advantage. Laulyam is not a bad word. When we have this mood to engage in devotional service, when we have this mood to become eager to receive the mercy of the Lordship through his devotees. So the mercy of the Lordship flows through his devotees. All we have to do is take shelter at their lotus feet. And so today, remembering Srila Narottama Das Thakur, we pray to Shri Radha Krishna that please bestow us with your wonderful mercy. Please turn this whole planet Earth into Vaikuntha. Please have your name spread all around the world. And we are also, praying to our spiritual masters that please bless us so that we can attain the goal of life, which is the love of Godhead. And that love of Godhead is like an ocean, an overflowing ocean of transcendental bliss. And in that ocean of transcendental bliss, we become blissful and enjoy for eternity. Hare Kṛṣṇa. The Disappearance Day of Srila Narottama Das Thakur ki jai, Srila Narottama Das Thakur ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnava Vind ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Krishna.